Today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded March 6, 2016, and it's titled, The 3 Ds of Abundance, subtitled, Decide, Declare, and Disciplined. Come visit us sometime at www.seasidecenter.org and find out everything that Seaside has to offer you, or join us in Encinitas, California sometime, where great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving community always await you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this morning, let's see. I want to start with when you're on your spiritual path, you're going to be tempted not 100 times, but 1,000 times to believe in a selfhood that is separate from God. In a self that is separate than the I, the capital I, the I that I am spirit that is expressing. Life is going to continuously offer you opportunities to think that this selfhood is something different than God, that there could be something that God needs to come in and fix. And what I want us to get this morning as we take a look at our self-expression, that we're living in an abundant universe that doesn't need to overcome anything because it is the only thing there is. And so to help recognize that and realize that and manifest that in our life, this morning's writing from my book, Joyous Living, is about, or Joyous Abundance, is about the 3 Ds of abundance, which is you've got to decide. I've got to decide, I'm going to choose this, right? I'm going to choose this, not that. I'm going to choose this. And I'm going to declare this. I'm not going to declare I'm not going to be that, but I'm going to decide what it is. I'm going to declare that, and I'm going to be disciplined enough, which means I'm going to take charge of my mind. My mind that's like a little puppy that's running all over the place. I'm going to say, sit there. You ever tried training a puppy? Does it sit there? No, it goes there. And now you put it back there, you stay, and it doesn't stay. It runs over there. And so you may be tempted to yell at that little puppy, might even whack that little, not that you would, but maybe you just a little pat on the puppy. You don't want to do that with your mind. You don't want that puppy to be in fear of you. You want that puppy to be of love. So you keep saying, discipline. You put it back there. You put it back there. You put it back there. And this is the way you begin to bring forth that blessing that is inside of you. There is a parade of blessings and gifts that are you that want to come into this world, and that you have got to decide, this is what I'm going to bring to life. This is who I am. I want you to listen to that parade of joy and happiness and decide to trust your instinct that wants to bring something greater to the party, to the situations you find yourself in, because you're the one who has to call it forth and not fall into that mind that's like a puppy that could be running all over the place, or that part that believes in a selfhood that could be separate from God, and I'm going to buy into the race consciousness of fear or constriction or whatever it may be. You've got to decide, you know what? I'm going to play here. You can count me in. I'm not going to try to fudge because nobody's paying attention. I love this story by Harold Kushner who talked about a village that on New Year's Eve, they had a big party in the village, and everybody was to bring a bottle of wine and pour it into the community vat, and then at midnight, they would all share the wine. And so a few days before New Year's, people would start bringing their bottle and they would pour it into the vat, and someone else would bring it. And before long, everybody in town had brought their wine and contributed to the community vat. New Year's Eve at midnight, people came up to take their glass of wine, and what they got was water. And they spent the rest of the night, nobody looking at each other, because they all knew exactly what everybody did. Nobody brought wine. They just figured everybody else was bringing wine. So I was just going to bring a little bit of water here. No one would know the better. Where in your life do you think you could fudge it a little bit because nobody's paying attention? That's not the road to abundance. Road to abundance says, hey, count me in. I've got something to bring to this party. I am a contributor to life. I am a contributor to my world. Jack Kornfield, a wonderful writer who I'm inspired by, he wrote the book After Ecstasy, The Laundry, The Path with Heart, clinical psychologist, PhD. When he graduated from Dartmouth, he took off to Asia and became a Buddhist monk. And he lived in the monasteries for years in Thailand and India and Burma. And after the years of doing that, he moved back to the U.S., to Boston, and just got a job as a cab driver. Lived in a little apartment, hooked up with a girlfriend who was a teaching fellow at Harvard. And a couple of weeks, just passion, wonderful. But after a couple of weeks, she started getting really frustrated with him. And it was because he could never really make a decision. It's like, what do you want for dinner? You want Chinese or Indian or Italian? He says, I don't care. It's all good. Kind of sounds spiritual on our side, right? Hey, what movie do you want to see? It doesn't matter. And after a while, she became very upset and frustrated by that. And what he realized is, being this practicing Buddhist, he learned to just accept whatever robes that were given to him, be grateful for whatever food that was put in his bowl. He learned equanimity, he learned acceptance, but he lost touch with his deeper self. He lost touch with his ability to make a decision. This is what I want. This is what I have decided in my life. And the true Buddhist practice is not losing all your desires. It's about being in relation, in appropriate relation, in correct relationship with those desires that are inside of you. William Blake said, those that enter heaven are not without passion. They are in a clear understanding with their passions. We're in this world. And the good side of your passions and your desires is the pleasure it brings you. The extreme side are the addictions, where all of a sudden you're trying to find, something to satiate that addiction. That's too far. That's not being in right relationship. You got to decide and not be overly addicted to it, because then you become, as the Buddhist, since we're talking, Cornfield here talks about the hungry ghost. The hungry ghost cannot be satisfied. It has this little pinhole of a mouth, and it has this addiction. It wants this, and it can never be satisfied. It can never get enough food. Pinhole mouth, long neck, big belly, never enough can get down. So it's appropriate for you to decide what it is you want in your life. Amelia Earhart said, the toughest thing is deciding how to act. The rest is just tenacity. It's just sticking to it. That's the declaration. I'm going to make this declaration. This is what I'm going for. And I'm going to be disciplined enough, because as the mind begins to wander, I'm going to call it back, because I'm clear. I made a decision. I'm not at the whims of the collective consciousness or the race fear. I'm going to be a conduit through which spirit shows up here in my life. I'm going to decree a thing that's going to be established, because I'm committed to that. Or are we? It's easy to be committed to a future something, just as long as I don't have to change now. A UCLA business professor at Anderson Business School for UCLA, Shlomo Bernanski, he shared a story of an experiment he did with his class. And it's about being easy to be, positive, about doing something in the future, just as long as you don't have to change now. They call it present bias, being present, bias to the present, my gratification in the present moment. He asked the class that, in a couple weeks I'll bring the snacks to class. Who wants bananas and who wants chocolate? 75% of the class said, I'm going healthy, bring the bananas. 2 weeks later, when the class came together, he put out enough bananas and chocolate for everybody, and 80% took the chocolate right there. Give me the pleasure now, the gratification now, which is part of why we have difficulty creating abundance in our life, is because we've got these desires that want to do something now that do not support the longer decision that we have made in our life, in our world. We've got to recognize that, with God, there is nothing else. There is God. I am that which is expressing here, and that's where my security comes. That's where my abundance comes. That's where my health comes. That's where my life comes from. And I was working with somebody recently who just got approved for permanent disability. Elated. They're going to get $200 or $300 a week for the rest of their life. And they now see that as their source. And the sad part is they no longer see what it is they have as their source to bring to this world, to be sourced, to be supported. They have now committed to this as their income and their source. What happens sometimes is we get locked in thinking this is it, this is the way, and we begin to declare this is my source, and it begins to be real, and our discipline is supporting that in our life, and that becomes our fixation. And when things shift, there becomes anxiety, there becomes tightness, there becomes fear, there becomes worry over that. You want to experience abundance in your life, you got to be willing to decree a thing. You got to make that decision and decree it, declare it, and say, hey, this is mine to experience in life. This is what I'm going to bring to this world. And what Spirit has to show up in my life is far greater than what it is I'm thinking, but I have to give it space. Can't tell God how to do it. I just got to know Spirit's there. Old folk tale about a man who was out walking in the woods, and he saw this injured fox. Probably got caught in the chase by the huntsmen and broke its legs in its escape, and now was sitting in the bushes just starving to death, could no longer get up to get itself food. And as he was watching this fox, he saw a grizzly bear drag its recent kill near the fox, and he ate it. And when he was done, he left the carcass for the fox and took off. And the fox just devoured that. Next day when the guy was walking the woods again, he noticed the same thing, that the bear came with whatever its meal was and left some morsels for the fox that had devoured it then. And the next day when he was walking, he saw the same thing, and the guy got it. He said, God, I get it. If you can take care and provide for a fox, by all means, I know you can take care of me. God, I know if you can feed a hungry fox, you can feed me. I'm kind of low on faith here, so I'm going to commit myself. I'm going to sit down here and let you feed me. And he sat there all day long. Nothing happened. He sat there all day the next day, starving. Nothing happened. A third day, no food was delivered to him. He was starving. He got up so ticked off at God, said, God, I would think you would have as much love for me as you do for that fox. You take care of the fox, you won't even take care of me. I cannot believe it. And he was going into town. He sees a kid starving on the street, real angry at God, said, God, you can feed a fox and you won't feed me. What? Why won't you help? God said, I did help. I brought you, but you thought you were a fox. You're the bear. When you've got that gift, when you've got that something. But what happens is the mind gets fixated on something else. That's where that discipline comes, of that mind that's running off like a puppy. You got to bring it back, not beat it up and say, bam, sit. But you just lovingly bring it back and said, I meant more. I'm meant to be more than this. I'm meant to be more than the struggle or the difficulty, or the unhappiness. I know there can be no selfhood apart from God, but I've got to come to know that. And when you know that, you can rest, because the shift happens. But you can only rest a little while because the next thing comes along. See, that's it. That's the 1,000 temptations I'm talking about there. You're tempted to think that, oh no, this one is real, and then it begins to consume your mind. There was this one abundant rich guy in India who went to a master teacher, said, I want to enter heaven. Help me, you know. And so the master said, I want you to go home. I want you to go home and find a room, and I want you to sit in there, and whatever you do, don't think of blackbirds, okay? Yeah, that's it. And as soon as you can stop thinking of blackbirds, you'll know God. So I don't want you to think about big flocks of blackbirds or even little flocks of blackbirds. I don't want you to think about a dozen blackbirds or even a half a dozen blackbirds or 4 blackbirds or 2 blackbirds or even 1 blackbird. I don't want you to think about blackbirds. And as soon as you stop thinking of about blackbirds, you'll know God. We know what happened. All I could think about. What happens is our mind is so undisciplined that it runs around and believes, you know what, I can get away with pouring water in instead of contributing. Nobody's going to notice. All of a sudden the mind starts playing games thinking it can get by, rather than declaring and acting as if you're an abundant expression of God. I've worked with somebody whose goal was to get out of debt. Really, get out of debt. That's your goal. You know, years later, he was still working on getting out of debt because all he could think about was debt. See, what is it you're declaring in your life? How about freedom? How about creativity? How about self-expression? How about purpose? Dharma? You've got to decide, this is mine. Well, it's all good. Yeah, but you've got to decide what's your good that you've come here to share in this world. What is it? It's Emerson said 150 years ago. Can anybody remember a time when it wasn't hard and money wasn't scarce? Now, I don't share that with you to be a downer. I share that with you to recognize that you always had to be a contributor before it showed up in your life. Nobody's sitting on the corner, at least not back then, dishing out $200 or $300 a week. Life is reciprocal. There is an energetic match. You've got to have a level of consciousness and be a contributor, and life supports the contributors. And the more you contribute in a unique way, not necessarily your time, but the greater gift you bring, the greater reciprocation that comes back into your life and your world. It is a natural law. It's not somebody up there keeping tabs on it. It's how this works. Life responds to you, to your world. And so it's always been like that, at least 150 years ago when Emerson was around saying, you know what, it's hard. Well, people are saying that today. But it's not necessarily the truth of it. You know? It's their experience of an infinite, abundant universe in which we live, where there has always been enough. And when you can know that, declare that, and be disciplined enough to practice that in your life, what begins to come back into you are the blessings and the richness of life. And so you begin to say that. You say, hey, this is what I've decided I'm going to be in this world, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to contribute. And all of a sudden, I'm open up, show me, God, and what comes are these inspirations and these revelations. And all of a sudden, what happens is, I just want to, the messenger, they're a little offbeat. Maybe I can get something else out of you. You want to beat up the messenger because it's so out there that there's got to be something else. That I want my inspiration to be a little bit more reasonable. I want it to come with a project planner that shows me the ABC steps on how to get there. And if we have messed up along the way, I want you to get that your nature still hasn't changed. You are still that large capital I of the I am. I don't care if you yelled at that dog, or you drank too much wine, or you secretly didn't contribute to the worthy cause. We're not one of those religions that uses guilt. I wish we were. We'd have the place packed, but I trust everybody's bringing their friends back, because this is an empowering, life-changing way to live. It is one that says your nature is divine, your nature is abundant, your nature is God. You have the wisdom and the allness of spirit that is moving right through you right now. You just need to step into that river of life. Napoleon Hill talks about it in his Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the big money that flows to individuals almost effortlessly, like the river going downstream, bringing them good. That's what it's like. But on the flip side, there's a river that's going up that's taking people in the opposite direction. And you either have stepped into one side or the other, have not extricated yourself from that river that is flowing up. You, with your mind, with your consciousness, get to decide at any moment which side of that river you want to be on. Because it's always there. It is always flowing. Because as the psalmist David said, my cup runneth over. As an abundant God. As in Exodus, it's talking about the Israelites being saved from slavery. And where were they going? They weren't going to the land of almost enough. Barely enough. They were going to the land of plenty. You got that? They were going to the land of plenty, where it flows milk and honey. And what do people do? They complain about the calories with that. You've got to open up, because the good is there. You are the one who has got to be able to say, yes, you know, I'm going to decide, because I do have an urge inside of myself. And I have a healthy relationship with this desire to express spirit. And I'm going to declare it. I'm going to be bold enough to say, God, go ahead and use me for this. And I'm going to be disciplined enough as my mind begins to wander and think, can I get away with this? Nobody's watching. Maybe I can skimp here. You know what? I'm going to go all out. I'm going to give that a little extra, you know, because it's going to come back to me pressed down. Press down. You know what that's like? You ever make cookies? It says a cup of brown sugar. You fill it up and it's like full. But then you press it down, you get in twice as much. That cookie's so much better with twice as much brown sugar, I can assure you. Your world is twice as good with twice as much sugar, I can assure you. You know, it's true with cookies. It's true with your life. It works that way. Shaken together, pressed down, overflowing. That is what is yours. But you are the one who has to accept that in your life and in your world. You're the one who's got to know, you know, the story of Jesus has come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. That's right. That is the purpose of life, that you can have it more abundantly. I'll tell you what, it is about bringing forth that presence in this world. Spirit or life, or call it what you want, is so much more pleased when you got it going on and it's working in your world. Doesn't have to worry about you having problems. I know if I were to take Trevor to somebody's house and he showed up all disheveled and holes in his pants and his hair messed up, besides mom being upset with dad, what kind of reflection would that have on his dad to let him look like that? What kind of reflection is it on life to have you struggle in this world? You're the one who's got to decide it's okay to be a divine expression. You can do so much more for life when you are a positive expression. You know, well, Christian, it's just I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell you a story. I may have shared this a couple years ago, but I like it. It's about Theodore Johnson. I don't know if you remember this, but here's a guy in 1924. He started with this, never worked before. He started with this new upstart company called United Postal Service. And he worked there all of his life. That's what he did. He never made more than $14,000 a year. The highest he ever got was like managed personnel a little bit. But he did have a plan. So he decided that this is how much I need to be able to take care of my family later on in life. So I'm going to put 20% away. And that's what he did. He consistently, every check he got, bonus, whatever, 20% away. And through compound interest, through splitting of stocks, through whatever, he got later in life and he was comfortable. And at the age of 90, when he divvied up his estate, it was worth $70 million. Just by being consistent in honoring what he had decided, being disciplined with that, and declaring this is what it is I need. He was able to take more than $35 million of that and give it to educational causes. In 1940, he had a hearing loss, and so 10% of it he went to the deaf community for education. He gave another chunk to UPS to support the children's education of their employees. Imagine the joy this guy had. And he had nothing. He didn't have the education. He just stayed consistent with what he had declared. He decided and he was disciplined in his practice. That is what happens. Or, you know, the story of Sir John Templeton. I love that guy because growing up, that was the only individual philanthropist who gave to spiritual organizations. His story was that, you know, he dropped out of school at 8th grade, scrubbed, and he struggled. And in 1939, when Germany declared war on Poland and the stock market in the world and everything crashed, his belief is you can't make money when things are in a bull market and things are growing and you put a house on the market and people are bidding against each other and the house sells at the high price. You got to wait till usually when things are down before you can do it. And so what he did in 39 is he scraped as much money, $10,000 as he could get, and he bought 100 shares of every stock on the New York Stock Exchange that was below $1 a share and went on to be a billionaire. Yeah. So I'm sharing that because bad times, consistent times, old. Here's a young one. I love sharing these stories. Here's someone who had an idea. You know, is not caught up in the race consciousness. I have this idea. Do you know the story of Marley Diaz? She's this 11-year-old African-American in New Jersey who has been reading the school books. He said, Mom, all these books are about little white boys and dogs. There's no stories about anybody like me. And I love what her mom said. This is great. This is what you can say to yourself. This is what you can say to your kids, to your grandkids. She said, so what are you going to do about it? Got that? What are you going to do about it? There's a video clip came out earlier this year on CBS This Morning Show. Marv?
Characters you loved as a kid look like you. A research library at the University of Wisconsin found that of the 3,500 children's books it received last year, only 261 were about black people, and just 100 came from black authors. One New Jersey sixth grader isn't satisfied with numbers like that, so she showed Benita Nair how she created a new chapter.
I am born on a Tuesday at University Hospital, Columbus, Ohio, USA.
For 11-year-old Marley Diaz, a good book opens the world.
You always have words. You're able to express your emotions when you read The People Who Look Like Me. Keep fighting.
But there are some books she's assigned in school she's grown tired of.
The books were just mainly about white boys and dogs.
I read Shiloh, Shiloh 1, Shiloh 2, Shiloh 3, Where the Red Fern Grows, and a bunch of other ones. I'm sick of it.
Marley wanted books she could relate to, with characters like her.
So I just went to my mom, and then she told me, well, what are you going to do about it? And that's kind of how the book drive started.
The idea was simple but ambitious, to collect 1,000 books about black girls.
And we started posting pictures on Instagram of me holding black girl books and pretending to read them. And then we added the hashtag, and now it's become a full-on book drive.
How did you come up with the hashtag?
Well, we know that social media is like the main outlet for us to get anything that we want now, so it needed to be fun, catchy, and just something easy to remember. So we wanted 1,000 books, and we wanted them to be black girls, so you just kind of snag them together, and you got a hashtag.
Were you ever nervous that you wouldn't be able to find 1,000 books about?
100%.
But that nervousness has been replaced with excitement. First, local media got wind of her drive.
So please welcome Marley Diaz, everybody.
That led to appearances with Larry Wilmore on The Nightly Show.
And your name is Marley. That's such a good
Yes.
name. Were you named after Bob Marley?
Yes, my mother is Jamaican, so she named me after Bob Marley. I have to do my homework, so during your show time, but I'll always be on YouTube watching your videos.
And with Ellen DeGeneres.
You need to figure out your priorities, because it should be my show, then homework, but that's all right.
So did you guys just decided to start putting them on the floor?
Yeah, it's kind of easier to organize them.
The books began arriving and stacking up. When we visited, Marley had collected close to 1,300 of them.
Do you have a favorite book?
There you go. So I don't want to hear you're too young. 11 years old, she had an idea, she decided. She declared it, and she was disciplined. And last month, she took 1,000 books to her mother's hometown in Jamaica. That is what is possible. But you see, she wasn't saying, woe is me. Someone said, so what are you going to do about it? You got an issue in your life? Don't buy into a selfhood that is different than God. Know that with God, all things are possible, and you are the I, the capital I of the I am that, which is expressing in your life. And so you've got to begin to embrace the idea, the abundant idea of your greater good, and not try to figure out ways in which you can skimp or get away without being caught doing something less than the greatness of who you are. You have been called to be an expression of the divine. You've been called to share what it is you've got. And if you don't feel there's enough, you can still be appreciative for what you have got, because all those that are in that a wonderful flow of that river of life, all those that are in that affluent place live with a sense of gratitude for what it is they have, for what is coming, and how blessed their life has been. But I want you to get that they didn't start that gratitude after they got somewhere. They began to embrace that sense of gratitude before the good ever began to show up. So you can begin appreciative for the good and the abundance that you are now right where you are in your life, because you are surrounded. If you stop to pay attention, you'll recognize how your world is surrounded by so many blessings and so much good. There is no way in the world you could pay that back. My mind is boggled how many blessings come into Seaside consistently. I wake up every day with a sense of gratitude for my relationship with Callie and Trevor, for being here at Seaside, and for all of you who are in my life. I'm filled with this gratitude because there's no way I can do something to reciprocate that back to each and every one of you. But you know what? I've come to recognize it's living in gratitude and appreciation is what we can do to add the blessings to this world and to keep that good circulating. I want to share with you this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert that I just came across this week. And she's the one who wrote Pray, Eat, Love, or Love, Pray. Yeah, that's it. She wrote that one. But I love this line about gratitude. She said, maybe we must all give up trying to pay back the people in this world who sustain our lives. In the end, maybe it's wiser to surrender before the miraculous scope of human generosity and to just keep saying thank you forever and sincerely for as long as we have voices. That's what I'm committed to. Just keep saying thank you, looking out and seeing the Spirit of God, not trying to get out of debt, but to be grateful for the abundance that is flowing in my life. Not to try to figure out how do I get out of struggle, but to be grateful for the freedom that I have to be able to choose with a mind that is free enough and not bound to the ways of this world. I am grateful in a place of question to know that there's something inside of me that knows how to decide, and that if it gets on the addictive side of things, that I can, through right relationship with that desire, bring it to a place of balance and acceptance in my world and not give my power away to anything outside, because there is not God and something else. So when somebody calls me, a client calls me, or a headline grabs me, or a prayer request comes in, I don't try to overcome it with something greater, because it's not about trying to overcome that. It is about going back into my right relationship with that presence of God, with that life force, and recognize that there's no selfhood opposite or opposed to God. And so as I go into that place of that divine consciousness, there is no room for God in a problem, no room for God in an issue or the difficulty. There is God expressing the answers and the wholeness in ways that are moving through me as I decide this is the way I need to act, not God, why aren't you providing? God provides and brought you into this world as a bear, as a lion, as a tiger, as a deliverer, as something great and grand, not to lick your wounds and go, whoa, give me $200 a week or some food for dinner. You are here because you've been given a purpose. You've been promised. I love this promise. I'll end with this promise from Deuteronomy, first chapter, verse 11. It said, may the Lord God of our fathers bless you and prosper you 1,000 times more than you are. But you've got to decide that it's yours. God bless you. You too. Look forward to it.
And all your searchings brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.